Today, from the very beautiful and crowded, there's a photo walk going on today, American Tobacco campus. We're going to get the shot with the Canon R7 and the 18 to 150 kit lens. Let's go. What's up everybody? Phil with Photo Gear Fun here today. Another getting the shot, this time with the Canon R7. Just got this one yesterday. It's a crop sensor R body. I got the kit lens with it. That was the only way I could find it. I couldn't buy body only. So we're gonna see what this this 18 to 150 kit lens can do. It's quite a range, might be useful. It's not the fastest lens. I don't remember the specs exactly, but let's give it a shot, see what we can do. All the video is going to be shot with this kit lens and the R7, and all the photos as well will be shot with the R7. So let's go get some shots.
All right, here we are in On1, which is my editing software, starting off with this shot of a train on the tracks. These are all raw images, and you can see the information here: ISO, shutter speed, aperture, and exposure compensation. Also information about the lens. So this was taken at 18 millimeters, ISO 100. Shutter speed 1/200th, and this is completely unedited. So one thing I like about this is not on one tutorial, but one of the things I like just really quickly, if you click on AI Auto, it gives you a decent starting point for an edit. So just to give you an idea on what an edit might look of this particular picture, here you go.
All right, so this is a classic shot. I get this one with each getting the shot I do here. Smokestack, and actually if you pivot a little, you'll be able to see the water tower. And with the zoom range here, I'm at 18 millimeters, zooming into 150, I'm getting pretty tight on that smokestack. So that's 150, and that's 18. Pretty handy for a video lens. All right, let's go find some more shots.
Okay, and this is the smokestack and the water tower. You might see that it takes a minute for this to fill in so that you can see the image fully. ISO 100, we're at f14 here. I was trying to get everything in focus. Normally I wouldn't shoot it. I probably should have shot this at f8. But again, this is an unedited RAW. If we just wanted to get an idea of what a quick edit would be, kind of see how that cleans up. But this is at 18 millimeters again. Here's one just to kind of show you the sharpness, and this is the cage from the YMCA. Get an idea of how sharp the lettering is. Again, we are at 24 millimeters this time, f8. So you can see all the detail. I'm actually surprisingly impressed by this lens. I didn't think it would be as sharp as it was. And again, these are unedited, not cropped. I didn't do anything to these, just brought them into On1. This is just a little mural that we have there, again, just to kind of show you the sharpness. And this is at 28 millimeters. And we're at f7.1. This one gives you an idea on the bokeh you can get. So what I did is I backed all the way up 150 times the 1.6 crop. I didn't work it out, but it's got, this lens has quite a reach. We'll see some examples of that as we go through this, but you can see this is just a banner that they have here, and you can see this out of focus area pretty good again. And we're at 1600 ISO, so you can get an idea on the ISO. It's not necessarily the greatest performer, but it is a 32 megapixel sensor. But you can just see how sharp, surprisingly sharp this lens is. Of course, the sensor is pretty darn good too, but that just gives you an idea about what you might be able to get for bokeh at 150. We're at f6.3, so it's not a fast lens, but again, at 150 you can get some decent bokeh. This is the back side of the train. You can kind of see, again, the details and the colors. This camera renders colors pretty accurately from what I can see in photo mode, at least. An idea on what we get at 1/50th. I'll show you some slower shutter speeds. The IBIS in this I found to be really good with this lens especially. I don't know if it'll be as good with other lenses, but with this one it seems to be actually really good. So here's a shot just looking up at the smokestack. So some of this is user error. So I was at 1/50th of a second and f/18. Probably shouldn't have been. Probably should have been at a higher shutter speed and lower aperture, f/8, something like that. So this is user error. Sometimes when I'm making these videos, it's hard to just keep everything straight as far as settings go and switching between video and photo. But that being said, this is the water tower, and you can see I'm at f/25 here, so you'd probably never want to shoot at f/25, but if you did it by mistake, not terrible results. Diffraction obviously kicks in, and there's a loss of contrast. You'll see that in another shot, but surprisingly, not too bad. This is another pretty cool area. Always get a shot of this. And again, we're at 18 millimeters here on this kit lens. Zoom all the way into 150. See the stack. Definitely good zoom range. I'm at f6.3 here, so it looks like this is a 5.6 to 6.3 lens. But it's a beautiful day. Lots of people on the photo walk. Really cool to see. All right, I'm going to show you my favorite spot here at American Tobacco campus. So this is one that I wanted to do for kind of get an idea of the dynamic range of the camera, because the stack sign, this is kind of in the shadows. You can see the shadows and the highlights were pretty bright. Again, I'm at f/18. I actually changed my shutter speed after I realized that I shouldn't be using that speed. But again, if we just click on the AI Auto, that brightens things up a little bit, and let's just pull up the shadows and see what we can do. So give you an idea on the dynamic range of this camera. Canon's not really noted for their dynamic range, and I don't know that this is as good as the like A6600 the Sony crops, but it's much better than I expected it to be from a dynamic range perspective. I've got another shot. We'll show you some of the dynamic range capabilities, but just wanted to give you that little piece of knowledge. Hopefully that helps if you're talking about or looking at dynamic range. This is my favorite spot to get a shot of this. And just to give you an idea on what 18 plus the 1.6 crop on this Canon looks like, that's it. You might want a tripod. I don't know. This seems a little tight to me, but it's not terribly tight. You actually might be able to use this. This might be useful for vlogging. And again, that range that you get. So if you're going to take it for travel, photos, and video, I think it's actually a pretty good lens. I'm kind of happy I got it. I didn't necessarily want it. I was going to get body only, but it turns out to be pretty useful, at least for the first time using it. So let's go grab some more shots. So we're at 28 millimeters here. There it goes. Finally kicks in. ISO 160, 140th, f4.5. This is just a shot that I always get. I love this little area. And on the other side of the stairs, you can see here is this image. And once it fills in there, I wanted to show you with this. So this is at 24 millimeters. I tried to get a good frame. I could go out to 18. This frame worked at 24. But just to give you an idea of the range again, so this is 24 millimeters. And then this is 150 millimeters. Let me just flip back through that again. You can see the face here, and then at 150. Pretty impressive zoom range. And again, would be, I think, very handy for travel. ISO 3200 as well, so you can see. And there's no noise reduction or anything applied to this. And this is just another example of how sharp it is. This is pretty good text, and the contrast is pretty high here, so I really don't see any big issues. There was one minor issues with chromatic aberration, which we'll see, but really, I mean, I'm impressed. And you can see the bokeh. Even though I'm only at 70 millimeters here, you can still see that the background that's further away can get some decent bokeh. And so here is the water tower again, completely blue sky day. Maybe a few clouds crept in, so I prefer to see storm clouds in the background here. But we're at ISO 100, 1/640th. You know, pretty darn sharp as far as I can tell. So here is another kind of sharpness test. So I am also testing the slower shutter speeds. I have some slower, but this is at 1/15th on the shutter speed, and we're at f5.6. And just to give you an idea on what we can do at 1/15th on the shutter, handheld. Looks pretty good to my eye. All the text looks pretty sharp, and I don't have the most steady of hands, so again, the IBIS is really good, I find. This is just another example of bokeh. So I am at 150 here. Again, not the greatest shot of the sign. You can still see it's in shadow, but you can still see it's pretty sharp. And then you can see the kind of the graduation of the bokeh, but this is really, the stand with Ukraine is really blown out. This is another one I wanted to try to just test the dynamic range. This statue is in shadow. So again, I'll just do a quick auto to see how that goes. And you can see it brought up the shadows, but we still have more room to go in the shadows if we wanted to bring it up even more. So I would say good, or maybe better than good, dynamic range from what I've seen out of this sensor.
They've got a bunch of cool little things around here. That little fountain there. And underneath the water tower you can see there's some chairs, but we'll get up close and personal with the water tower here. Another good shot. The blue sky day actually makes for a nice contrast here, although when it's cloudy and stormy it looks even better. Get in there really close. All right, let's go get some more shots.
And here's just a shot looking up at the tower. 24 millimeters. Everything looks good. So here's the shot that I usually take to look at chromatic aberration. And this is wide open for this lens at that focal length. And you can see it here. It's not terrible. And you have to look pretty hard to see it. I'm zoomed into 100%. But there is a little bit of fringing here. Not terrible, but again, this is not a fast lens, so you wouldn't expect the chromatic aberration to be terrible. So here is an extreme dynamic range. This Durham sign, which you'll see in a second, is completely in shadow, and all the shadow here with the bright highlights of the water tower. So again, I'll just do a quick AI auto, and that should bring up the basics, and then we bring up these shadows, and that is surprisingly good, considering this is basically in the dark. I think maybe the Sony might do a little better job in this particular case, like an extreme dynamic range, but still, you know, you can bring the highlights down here and get that, you kind of get an HDR look, but it's not terrible. Better than I expected.
All right, just wanted to give you an idea on what high ISO video looks like. We're at ISO around 10,000 here. So you can get an idea. And then the deep dark shadows here, focusing on this tractor. I bumped up the shutter speed so I can get the higher ISO. But it's just an idea on how the video looks at really high ISO.
And here is the old tractor. So this was another one where I'm trying to get a slow shutter speed. I'm shooting at 1/5 here. I was trying to focus on the American Tobacco, but the camera actually focused on this little piece here on the tractor. But you can see even at 1/5, the writing there is sharp. And even though this is kind of bokehfied, if I could steal a term from another photographer, it's still, I'm pretty impressed that at 1/15th, we can get a shot with, you know, the way I hold it. And this is another example of dynamic range. So this is the gate as you're coming in or leaving, depending on which way you're going. And again, I think that's pretty impressive. So there's more room in the shadows here if you wanted to. Don't really need to in this particular case. But I think that's pretty good. I think I've said it a couple times now. And here is Bulls Stadium. I'm at 18 millimeters here. Went to see a game there last night, had an awesome time. It's a great place if you're in the Durham area, you want to check out a ball game and it's ball season. Definitely a great family-friendly park. Really good time. They had fireworks at the end of the game on Friday night. But just another idea of the range. So 18 millimeters, and then pay attention to that D in the middle. Now we're at 150. So again, that gives you an idea on what the focal range is of this particular lens. Just a few more here. This is just a shot that I really like. You can see the old bull here, and you know, I would take the time to edit this, but just a quick edit, you can kind of see I would bring the blacks up a little bit and do some things to this to make this look a little bit better, but I just think that's a cool shot. So we're at 1/80th there at f7.1. And this is the old tobacco, this is an old tobacco building. And here's an old advertisement for Bull Durham tobacco. It's pretty interesting. And then this shot is from the top of the parking garage. I actually have a similar shot to this that was published in a magazine, the In-Flight magazine for United Airlines, which is pretty cool. They were doing a piece on North Carolina and Durham. And this shot, I did it at night, and this sign lights up, but pretty cool to be published in a magazine. But again, everything looks really good. The contrast look good, color, clarity. I would say the sensor and the lens, pretty good combo, even though it is, you know, a quote-unquote cheap kit lens. And then one more thing, I wanted to go through the focal range and show you if there's any difference in sharpness. So I'll use my buddy Bert here. Bert's Bees is based in beautiful Durham at the American Tobacco campus. So we are at 18 millimeters here, f3.5. Looks good. Here's 50 millimeters, f6.3. Again, looks good to my eyes. Now we are at 100. I had to back up pretty far to get these shots. But you can see, I think to me, around 100 looks the sharpest. But we'll have a look at 150 here. And even at 150, sometimes at, you know, at the long and short ends, you don't get great resolution necessarily. I think this is still pretty darn good. We'll go back just to 18 to look at the resolution there. And again, I think it's pretty sharp. And those are the shots.
All right, that's going to do it for another episode of Getting the Shot. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like this type of content, please consider subscribing. I'll try to do these fairly regularly, although I'm not as regular as I'd like to. Again, consider subscribing. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it helpful. Get out there and have your photo gear fun, and I will talk at you again in the next one.